Hey everybody, Salvadoran Warrior here, just to give you a quick update on the Blazing Lord, for it recently got an update. It's actually a pretty interesting update because it not only came with some changes, but it also came with some new trinkets for the Blazing Lord to play around with. Like, she has a lot, but there was a few more added, which I thought was really interesting at the time. With that said, let me gather my notes because I wanted to compare the old Blazing Lord to the new Blazing Lord, and for the move sets, it's a little bit, but you know, these are like interesting changes. So the first thing that got changed was the kick move. It used to give you a plus, um, you know, a plus 10% in damage. Now it gives you a negative 30 on, you know, mod damage. And the crit is still the same. And when on hit, you still get the buff of 20 dodge plus 5 speed. So the only thing that changed was the damage a little bit. I complained. Well, I don't want to say complain, but I said that the stun move was a lot stronger than any other stun move I've used. So turning down the dodge, excuse me, turning down the damage, um, wasn't such a big deal. For it kind of made things a little fair, so it's totally fine. However, the damage mod can change based on trinkets, so keep that in mind. The second change that was made is when the second things to change was the beast attack known as cut down. It used to give you a penalty based on positioning. Now it just straight up gives you a negative 60 percent of damage. So you're not going to be doing crazy amount of damage. It still moves you one forward. You still get the crit of plus 8. And even though it gives you that negative 60 in damage, um, having your enemies be hit with a bleeding, blight, or stun will still give you a 25% in damage. So that's still a thing. And the 50 plus damage if the enemies are marked is still a thing too. So even though it suffers from a negative 60% in damage, it won't affect the bonuses where your enemies will be bleeding, blighted, stunned, or marked. And something else to talk about, Decimate right here had a new look. Before, it had this Warframe icon, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't want to poke fun, all right? Like, if it's your choice, your choice. However, I'm glad that they went out of the way to give it a proper image. Also, um, Decimate has a new effect. It used to just do damage. Now it has an extra effect where it can clear corpses. So if you need a corpse clearer, the Blazing Lord is just for you. And I think that's really, really cool in my opinion. Really, really cool. Nice stuff. You know, she's now a really good character. Um, all the camping skills, however, are still the same, except for the maiden dance. The maiden dance is still a time cost 4. It still prevents a nightmare ambush, and it still gives the party a negative 15% of stress. However, she can produce a holy water item, which is interesting. Keep in mind, it didn't do that before. In this one, you get holy water. However, On my first time trying her out with the new update, I end up getting a random trinket from this skill. So, if you're lucky, you might get a random trinket revolving around her. So keep that in mind when using this. You actually don't lose anything. It's still a good camping skill. Holy water is also very useful, by the way. If you're not using holy water, you're out of your mind. And you know, if you get a random trinket from this, hell, even better. So that's it from the new changes that came from the combat skills. That is the Blazing Lord. Everything is still the same. Like, this still does what it needs to do, and this still marks and debuffs, and this still grants you 5 HP, and depending on the enemy's health, you'll do damage. And this still gives you a buff and still stresses you out if you're in beast mode a lot. So even the base stats, excuse me, even the base stats are the same. Trinkets will change base stats, however. Speaking of trinkets, that's something else I want to clarify. So this trinket's still the same. I haven't really collected a lot, but I encountered this trinket, which is unique, and this trinket, which is also unique, and this trinket, which is one of my favorites. And as I was recording, I really thought the repose activated for a one-time use on hit, but when I tried it out again on my free time, it turns out that repose stays active as long as beast mode is active. So obviously, if you go back to being human, you're gonna have to turn off the repose, and you'll still get the 10% of damage and 25% of HP, but you know, you won't get the repose unless you go back to being in beast mode. So that's interesting. By the way, if you want this trinket, you got to get it from the Colors of Madness, and you got to grind that 100 something crystals to get this trinket. Worth it, by the way. Really good. Overall, that's all I wanted to convey to you. A new update for the Blazing Lord. You know, she's still amazing. I highly recommend it. If you want, I'll even leave a description below the video, and I'll catch you on the next review. So take care, guys, and I'll see you around.